if you can find 100 of these customers that you know you can help because you've got a history and a pattern, out of those 100, that could be 5 customers. 5 customers is worth what? Do you know your numbers? Here we are, step 1 in this new approach for the show of making conversations count. And it's a real first because I'm going solo. It's my first step in approaching any new client campaign. When we look to build from the existing expertise and knowledge, there are things that we all need to understand. And that is nothing to do with words, but all to do with numbers. So today we're going to be making conversations about your business numbers count. Back in November 2020, when I released my best-selling book on Amazon, in the preface, I asked, who's this book for? Well, fast forward, and this is being recorded in June 2023. I'm asking myself the question after having over 110 something business leaders on the show, who is this podcast for? My aim has always been to bring you an interactive conversation, one where you'll listen to honest and relatable conversations with people who talk about their own experiences, that share ways for you to win at the specialism that they're in. Now, we've had people in sales, marketing, strategy, communication, even touched on homelessness and menopause and dementia. This is because when it comes to running a business, it's personal and our mental wealth matters. So the conversations that count that our business leaders share give you a behind the curtain look at some of the challenges and difficulties that running a business offers up. So we're going to get back to basics. We've reflected, we've cut back from weekly to monthly shows, and now I want to really every month give you a new step on the journey to making your conversations count. I really do hope that you will be able to take the tips and advice and put them into practice immediately, and also work on your business as well as in it. So grab a pen and paper because I'm going to be asking you some questions today about your business. And as I always say in my book, speak your truth in all you do and in all the answers you give. So what is the first question I ask of any new client? Do you know your numbers? Do you? Do you know what a customer costs? Do you know what it costs to get a customer? Do you know what you make from a customer? What's the end cost? How much new business do you want or need? How much capacity have you got? If you know how much money you need to make and how much it will cost you, you'll also need to know how much time you're going to need to dedicate to that. So really, the first question is all about numbers and not conversation at all. So you see, this might seem blindingly obvious, but that's where we need to start. Why a solo episode, Wendy? Well, it's complicated. I didn't really want an accountant to talk to you about your money. And I really didn't want to get an organisational coach to talk about your time. These are fundamental questions that you need to know, whether you're selling a time-based service or boxed goods, You will need to know how much of your time needs to be booked or how many boxes you need to sell to reach your financial target. For example, if you need to earn an extra £1,000 a month, it will break down into a certain number of new customers. If you've got 100 boxes, that'll make you a tenner. Each time you sell one, that's 100 people, unless you're offering a deal to encourage buying more than one. And are 100 people going to say yes? It's unlikely. It's more likely that you will need to speak to 20 people for every one. You do the maths. You've got the pen and paper. So, of course, if you have a service-led package, you'll need to work out how much time it takes to deliver that, not just with the client, but the invisible stuff that goes on behind the scenes as well. And you've got to work out how many of those packages you can comfortably fit into your working week. You may need fewer people to sell to, but the road to commitment will likely be a lot longer. For the larger companies, you'll need to look at your overheads and all sorts of complicated numbers like payroll and insurances and all of those other logistical costs. But hopefully, just asking those direct questions about knowing your goal, your financial goal, and your time available to reach that goal, you can look to become a realistic target and meet those expectations. So, do you know your numbers? Have you got something written down now? I do hope so. If, as in the example, one yes comes from 20 conversations, that's 19 no's or not yets. It's the not yets that you also need to keep an eye on, because they'll be who will fill up your future diary and keep you busy. So the work is done early. If you've listened to the show before, you will recall our formula: the right people for the right reason at the right time. And it's this timing element that I'm referring to now, because that will ultimately lead you to the right results, looking after themselves, because you've looked after those elements. Where's your success coming from already? What's that joy that brings out a natural passion that's really hard to turn off? Who are the people that you work with that sets that fire in your belly? Because those are the people that are going to help you win with that rinse and repeat. That knowledge is already intrinsic in the business, and it comes down to building a list, data, numbers. Who are those people? You may want to start with the companies. You may start with a Google search. You may look geographically. You may want to look on LinkedIn and use their filters. Looking to get a sample amount of data together, you'll be able to work out, for example, if you can find 100 of these customers that you know you can help because you've got a history and a pattern already formed. Out of those 100, that could be 5 customers. 5 customers is worth what? Do you know your numbers now? So how much time do you need to contact that data list? How much time have you got in your working week? 20 connection requests on LinkedIn may take an hour or 2. Managing the follow-up of those connections, the same. Picking up the phone, gosh, get really to the heart of the matter very quickly and build a much deeper connection. Either way, what's easiest isn't necessarily the quickest or the best. My advice would always be for you to look to find the method and the approach that you feel most comfortable with. If you are uncomfortable picking up the phone, my advice would be find out how you can change that to comfort. It's a fantastic skill to have and will serve you for the entirety of your business and career. But I'm biased because that's one of the things that I help people do. But it's interesting. If you were to test and measure or do split testing, you could split test cold calling versus LinkedIn. Now, my experience is cold calling wins, hands down. How long can you wait to turn those names on a list into a customer? Do you know how long it would ordinarily take with the methods that you're currently using? Compare notes. Give it a try. What have you got to lose? So what are your numbers? What is the potential for you? Do you think you could get this information together in the next few weeks before the next episode drops? And in that episode, I'm going to be asking a past guest to come back because we're going to be talking about CVP, which is a posh way of saying customer value proposition, or as I like to call it, cost, volume, and profit. More numbers, but actually it gets to the heart of why would they buy from you? Until next time, if you've any questions, do reach out on LinkedIn. If you've enjoyed this episode of me talking to myself, do let me know. I'd love a review. Thank you to the 40 odd that I've got on Apple and other platforms. They make this worthwhile. You help me make conversations count. I've not had one of these in a while, and I always love to shout them out. And it's a review that I received on LinkedIn. It was a connection that reached out having listened to myself and Michelle J. Raymond. Do you remember that episode where we talked about LinkedIn and company pages? It's going to be huge. And if you're not over that like a rash, then you really need to be. And here's what Rachel said. Hi, Wendy. A huge thank you for hosting all the fabulously informative and entertaining conversations with your guests. I recently subscribed to your podcast series and have been soaking up your content, sometimes listening more than once to an episode because of the tremendous value adds. So many of the topics covered have resonated and make so much sense. Looking forward to listening to more of your work. Rachel, all the way from Australia, I thank you so much for sending me those kind words because I love doing what I'm doing, but it's great that you love it too.